we go. Hello, everyone. Hold on a second. Let's see. Yes. Ladies, gentlemen, gentle thems, gentle fluids, gentle beings, and however else you may happen to identify. Welcome to the battlefield. I am Rustam, the hero of the Persian Empire, reborn in the modern day to battle evil on the internet. And tonight, that evil is insomnia. In case you can't tell, apologies. In case you couldn't tell, I may or may not have a little crumb or two of food stuck in my throat. Just the remnants of my little pre-stream snack. I also may have picked up a few little allergies. Nothing of concern, really, but not exactly enjoyable. In any case, I'm sure it'll be out of my system with a good night's sleep and plenty of fluids, so make sure to spam that hydrate redeem. Perhaps it'll help. Anyways, as you can tell from the title and from the stream category, and if you've seen it, the stream schedule, we're doing another ASMR session tonight. I really do enjoy these. They're nice and calming. Anyways, let's get started, shall we? I don't know if that came across or not, since I have the desktop audio muted, but I really hope it didn't. I knew I should have disabled the sound alerts for an ASMR stream. Anyways, hello, Highest. Good to see. It did. That's it, I'm disabling the sound alerts next time. I didn't want to have to do it because I knew it would mean deleting them all. I'll just have to figure that out, I guess. Anyways, welcome in, Highest. Please don't do that again. Anyways, let's get started. For those of us who are new to this, the book we are reading is the Persian epic myth book of prose. That's basically the Persian book of mythology, known as the Shahnameh, written by the poet Ferdowsi. It's essentially, as I said, the Persian book of myth, originally written in poetry form. It supposedly is an oral history, translated to paper, of the legacy of the kings of the Persian Empire, so to speak. Excuse me a moment. I really don't enjoy the sniffles. I really don't like that at all. Anyways, let's see, where were we with the Shahnameh? Yes. We were with Zal, the son of, who was it? Yes. Sam was the father of Zal, and he served the king Minoched, who was the great-grandson of the previous king, which was Faridun. And Sam was not exactly the greatest dad, since Zal was like an albino or something. he had white hair, and Zal was apparently not a fan of that, so he basically just did the traditional leave the baby in the wilderness thing, and the baby got picked up by a bird known as Seamerg, who raised him as his own and named him. And then when Sam came crawling back, because Zal had been prophesied to be a great warrior who would serve the king well, the Seamerg decided he was sufficiently repentant and would treat his son a bit better. So he told the kid that, he had to go be with his own humankind, and told him not to hate his dad and sent him back. And Zal was perfectly okay with this. And in any case, now, I believe when we last left off, Zal had fallen in love with the king of Kabul, Merab's daughter, and her name was Rudaba. So, quite a lot to follow, isn't it? Well, to sum it up, it's young love between a young warrior, a young white-haired warrior, and a foreign princess. Of course, they haven't even said a word, it's love at first sight, as is tradition for mythology, I guess. Alright, so let's see. Let's start from chapter 63. Rudaba falls in love with Zal and seeks the advice of her maids. One morning, Merab, the king of Kabul I mentioned earlier, deeply absorbed in thought about the manly and knight-like qualities of Zal, was walking towards the ladies' wing of his palace when he saw Rudaba and Sindukt. He was struck with the beauty and loveliness of Rudaba and thanked God for it. Okay, that's kind of weird, that's your daughter. I mean, sure, be grateful that she grew up nicely, I guess, but you really gotta comment on how she's beautiful? It feels a little bit weird, I think. Sindukt asked Merab how he had fared during his visit to Zal, what type of a man Zal was, whether he had any human qualities, whether he still pined for Seamerg, what was he to look at, what was his physique like. Gossip. Some things never change. In reply, Merab told his wife that Zal had the heart of a lion and the strength of an elephant. He was equally at home in court and on the battlefield. The only extraordinary thing that one could point out was his white hairs, but even these suited him admirably and made him look attractive. I mean, haven't you heard of Satoru Gojo? White hair is very much in right now. When Rudaba heard her father's description of Zal, she instantly fell attracted towards him and lost all hunger and sleep. Ferdowsi here remarks that whenever desire takes the place of wisdom, the whole aspect changes. He advises men not to talk of men in the presence of ladies, since a lady's heart is vulnerable to the onslaught of emotions. That's extremely misogynistic. Ferdowsi really was from a different time. Actually, no, that's not really a good excuse at all. It's honestly just really sad and misogynistic. Anyways, let's continue. Rudaba had 5 faithful ladies in waiting, maids in waiting. I don't know that there's a difference though. She took them into her confidence about her love for Zal. The maids tried their best to dissuade Rudaba from loving Zal by pointing out that offers had come for her from far-off places like Kanauj and Mai, since the fame of her beauty had spread from India to China, whereas Zal had been brought up among birds and had white hairs like an old man. Rudaba lost her temper with them and affirmed her determination to give her heart to none else but Zal. When the maids saw her grim determination, they promised to do their best to bring the lovers together. Zal fell in love with, let's see, how was it that Zal fell in love with Rudaba again? Medab basically just described his daughter to Zal and he fell in love with her just based on the description. They really are quite alike. They never even laid eyes on each other, but they just heard, but each of them heard the king of Kabul talk about the other, and then they were like, okay, the way the king's hyping this person up, they must be pretty awesome. I'd like to get together with them. That's... Well, I'm not gonna judge, but at the same time, I kind of will. Like, I don't want to judge, but yeah, I don't think that's a good basis for a relationship. Still, to each their own, I suppose. Okay, let's move on then to chapter 64. Though first I need to wipe my nose again. This is annoying. I wonder if it's going to be like this the entire night. I really hope not. Anyways, Rudaba's maids approached Zal and returned with gifts and a message for Rudaba. Rudaba's maids then made themselves attractive by putting on silk dresses and stuck roses in the hairs of their heads. They proceeded to the bank of the rivulet on the other side of which Zal's retinue had encamped, and started plucking roses that were blooming along the river bank. While doing so, they took care to come to a spot facing Zal's tent. When Zal saw these beauties, he inquired who they were, and why they were plucking roses from his garden. Well, that's a faux pas if I've ever seen one. His attendant, after inquiring, reported that the maids had been sent from Mehrab's palace by the Moon of Kabulistan, aka Rudaba. Zal brightened up and crossed over to the opposite bank, accompanied by his valet. He took the bow and arrow which his valet was carrying, and shouted loudly so as to scare away the water birds that were on the surface of the river. As some of the water birds rose to fly, he let fly an arrow, bringing one of the birds down, and coloring the river water red with its blood. He sent his valet by boat to collect the wounded bird. The valet crossed over and started conversing with the maids. They asked him who the skilled, handsome archer was. The valet revealed Zal's identity, and spoke in glowing terms about his master's prowess and the magnificence of his physique. The maids expressed their joy, and said that their princess would prove to be in every way a most fitting match for Zal. They dwelt upon Rudaba's beauty, grace, and charms in great detail. The valet, in a philosophical vein, remarked that bringing two loving souls together and separating them was just a routine game of this revolving earth. He then, playfully, had a dig at the sex of the maids by saying that a gallant swain who refrains from losing his heart to a fair damsel can at least have the satisfaction of not siring a female of the human species. Okay, wow. I Wow. I think time to get a new valet, because this one, yeah, he'll probably end up causing a diplomatic incident at some point in the future. That's just no tact whatsoever. No chill at all. Very rude. When the valet returned, Zal, who had been watching him talking and laughing with the maids, asked him what it was all about. On disclosing the nature of his talk, Zal asked him to go back and plead with the maids not to go back in a hurry, for he wanted to send a secret message and gifts. He then took out some coins, gold, pearl from his treasury, along with 5 pieces of costly silk cloth inlaid with gold, a casket full of pearls, and earrings which he removed from his ears, as also 2 costly rings presented to him by Mino Chair. Was it okay to give all those things away to a girl you'd never seen, including things the king gave you? I don't know if that's okay or not. All these he gave to his valet to hand them over to the maids. He then, personally, went over to them and heard from their lips a first-hand account of the beauty, grace, and charms of Rudaba. Zal asked them to arrange as to bring them face to face with Rudaba. They promised to do so. Zal and the maids then returned to their respective places. Merab's palace sentry challenged the maids as they returned late in the night, and warned them not to stay out so late in future. The maids gave Rudaba the gifts sent by Zal, and talked in such glowing terms about him that Rudaba's love for Zal rose to dizzy heights. She sent the maids back to Zal, inviting him to visit her in her apartments, which were specially decorated and renovated to accord a fitting reception to Zal. Chapter 65. Zal visits Rudaba, and they pledge each other their love. Soon after sunset, one of the maids hastened to inform Zal that the line was clear for him to visit Rudaba. Zal started without waiting a single minute. Rudaba was on the terrace, eagerly looking out for Zal. As soon as he came into view, she opened out the ringlets of her hair and shouted, "Welcome." She was full of admiration and appreciation that he had taken so much trouble to come to her. When Zal heard her sweet voice, he looked at the terrace and was at once struck with admiration for her beauty. He felt happy that God had at last granted his wish to see her, and asked her to show him the way up to the terrace. Oh my God. Hold on. Rudaba immediately loosened her curly hairs, which were so long as to reach down to where Zal was, well within his grasp, and told him to grasp the lower end of her hairs and climb up with its help. She took great pride in saying that she had grown her hairs all these years for the sake of this day, so that the hairs may be of some help to her lover. Rudaba, more like Rapunzel. And Seribot found an enemy bot. Good job, Seribot. Well done. Zal was so much choked with emotion at this gesture of Rudaba that he lovingly stroked the hair for some time with his fingers, and then kissed them so loudly that the sound could be heard by Rudaba at the top of the terrace. Wow. He was man enough not to take undue advantage of Rudaba's loving gesture, and said that it would not be manly upon his part to cause her pain by pulling upon her priceless tresses. He took the lasso from his valet and threw the looped end upwards so that it caught hold of a turret, and then reached the top of the terrace with its aid. Rudaba placed her hand in his, and, hand in hand, they retired into her boudoir, where they exchanged pleasantries, kisses, and embraces to their heart's content. Zal then told Rudaba that neither Minochair nor Sam would be agreeable to their marriage, but he placed love above everything else, and was prepared to wear the shroud if it came to that. He called God to witness that he would never go back on his love for her, and would ever remain true to her. He would not relax in his prayers to God, that Minochair's and Sam's hearts may be cleansed of all hatred and contempt for his beloved. He felt confident that God would listen to his prayer, and that he would be able to marry her openly. Rudaba also pledged her solemn word that she would accept none other than Zal. When the palace drums heralded the break of dawn, the lovers hugged each other so tightly that their bodies seemed to be interwoven like the warp and the woof. That's a new one. The warp and the woof. Their eyes were filled with tears as they most reluctantly parted from each other, and addressing the sun, they said that if he had not risen so soon, the lovers could have spent some more time with each other. Zal then threw the free end of the lasso onto the ground and climbed down. Chapter 66. Zal consults his advisors about his affair with Rudaba. Well, here's my advice. Good soldiers follow orders. 66. Soon after sunrise, Zal sent for the chief advisor and other counselors. After praising God Almighty, he pointed out to them that although God himself had no partner, he created every living thing in pairs for the propagation of species. See, funny thing about that, there's a lot of species that straight up don't need a partner. Heck, even the first living organisms didn't need a partner. Single-celled organisms. The name of an individual is perpetuated through his son. Not really. It is in keeping with the commands of God for an individual to seek a partner for propagating the species. Not necessarily, no. He then took them into confidence about his falling in love with Rudaba, and expressed his fear that Minochair and Sam may get annoyed over it. Their advice was solicited on how to gain the approval of Minochair and Sam. The advisors all sat tight-lipped and dumbfounded, because they knew that Merab happened to be the grandson of the accursed Zahak. For those who don't remember, Zahak was like a demon king who had snakes on his shoulders and practiced black magic, who held the throne of Persia for some time before he was defeated by Faridun, who then took over after imprisoning him in a mountain. Zal interpreted their silence as non-approval of his desire, and told them that he was quite prepared for their non-approval, since every self-willed person is always subjected to the reproaches of others. However, If they realized the peculiar circumstances in which he was placed and showed him a way out, he would never forget their obligation and would reward them handsomely. Ah, yes, the classic. When all else fails, bribe them. The wise men then opened their mouths and expressed their hope that if Minochair were to think coolly, he ought not to be displeased, because it is not fair that the sins of the accursed Zahak should be visited upon his descendants, even though the latter were to follow the noble path. They advised Zal to write a letter to Sam, explaining the circumstances of his falling in love with Rudaba. If Sam gave his approval, Minochair would never go against Sam's wishes. Chapter 67. Zal's letter to Sam about his falling in love with Rudaba. In his letter to Sam, after praising the Almighty God and eulogizing Sam's qualities of the head and the heart, Zal recalled how he was cast off as soon as he was born and brought up by Seamerg on the top of Hindu Kush mountain, how he was sustained on blood, whereas the normal diet for a newborn is milk. Are you trying to guilt him into letting you marry as you want? There seems to be an ad break going right now. Guess I'm just going to have to wait a minute. Oh, why are we waiting? I was on ad break. Wait, so the ad break is finished then? It says on my screen that the ad break's in progress, then it's due to end soon. Ah well, it's only 10 more seconds now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. It seems like the community should be back at this point. Alright. So then, can you... No, you cannot, Wilhelm scream, highest. I guess I'm going to have to mute those redeems after all. What a pity. Alright, let's see. Rewards, channel points. Oh joy, looks like I can just turn them off for the stream. I'll just keep this page open so that I remember to turn them back on after stream. Alright, there we go. Don't know me, highest, you brought this on yourself. This is an ASMR stream, you know. Relax. The reward... Well, this took a turn. I got hit with sit-ups. Goodness me, you really do love your sound redeems, highest. Alright then, I suppose I've got no choice. how many? 5 sit-ups. Okay? Still got 10K left. Well, I hope you enjoy them. No, 20K. Goodness me. 20 sit-ups. Let's see. The redeem is for 5 highest. Sorry. I'm not haggling with this. Alright then. Let's just lie down. And okay. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Nowhere does it say 5 sit-ups. Does it not? I'm fairly certain it says 5 sit-ups. Yes, it says so right here. Sit-ups. 5 sit-ups to keep the core in good condition. It says so on the description for the redeem highest. I'm sorry. Them's the rules. I made the rules. Not on yours, huh? That's interesting. If you click on the redeem, it should have that description on the little screen right before you click to finalize the purchase, so to speak. Well, what have we here? I must admit, I didn't think this day would come, but someone has finally redeemed the full workout. Okay. So what that means is that I have to do, let's see, jumping jacks, sit-ups, push-ups, and squats. Every single one of them. Take it to the max indeed. Apparently this got turned into a workout stream. Yes, all taken to the max, not just 5 of each. Don't worry, I'm a man of my word. Okay then. Here we go. Let's start with the jumping jacks, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70. Okay. There we go. Do it more ASMR like? Being too loud? What on earth? I don't know what you expect from me, Highest. It's a very small apartment. Am I supposed to muffle the sounds of my feet? Keep working out. But ASMR, huh? Boy. Alright then. Let's move to push-ups then. Since I gave my legs a pretty good workout just now. One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. Yeah. Push-ups are not my specialty. I can keep going after like a few seconds, but whatever. Let's just keep going with it. Let's see, where was I? 11, I think. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Alright. Now that is enough of that. Ten more, huh? Well, unfortunately, Highest, I decide what the max is, and right now I think that's the limit. Maybe next time we'll do 30. We'll see. As for good form, I don't know. I'll admit, my push-ups are the one thing Push-ups are the one thing I dislike doing the most because I'm quite conscious of my form. I'm never sure whether I'm doing it right or not. I really don't know. Hello, Zach. You're just in time to catch the Rustum workout session. Someone hit the full workout redeem, which means now I have to do all of the workout stuff. ASMR style, that's right, Highest, ASMR style. Anyways, yeah, it has been a while. Welcome in, it's good to see you. Anyways, we just got through with push-ups and jumping jacks, so now I think we need to do, let's go with sit-ups, and we'll do squats right after that. And let's see, that should be everything. I'm gonna take a quick drink of water first. No, stretch and do posture check. Stretching and posture checking isn't part of the full workout, highest. Everything that's like in pink, all the pink stuff, that qualifies as a workout. Posture check and stretch doesn't factor into that. Fine. Buffalo salad? What on earth is a buffalo salad? Are you putting the buffalo into a salad? How could you do such a thing? Bison are such sweet things. How could you put them into salad? You're awful. Alright. Just for you. See Imperial Constitution number 3, huh? Which one is that? Understood. Creative. Alright. Just for the creativity, I'll reward you with some stretch. Okay, there we go. There's our stretch. I'll do a posture check when I sit back down. Okay, now then, let's do some sit-ups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16. Wait, no. Was that 15 or 16? I think it was 15. Let's just say it was 15. 16. 17. 18. 19. 20. 21. 22. 23. 24. 25. Okay. That should do it for now. Feel the burn. Yeah. Sure, we fit trainer. If there is any consolation to this, it's that you spent a lot of Darks on this. Alright. And now for your last trick, correct. We're doing the squats now. That's the last one. very difficult to keep the ASMR levels of quiet right now. What do you mean I'm becoming Princess Peach? Seriously, where does the Princess Peach thing come from? Anyways, alright, so let's get to the squats. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. There we go. Now that is taking it to the max. Don't you laugh. Okay. Now, there's that posture check. Keep reading, huh? Alright. Just give me a sec to catch my breath, will ya? I need a drink. You've driven me to the bottle, to the water bottle. I hope you're proud of yourself. Kinda just terrorize? That was max terrorism highest. And now we got 5 minutes to the next ad. It's a pity I don't have a heart. It's a pity I don't have one of those mics that people use for the heart. If we did, I could do like a little heart mic thing, and you guys could listen to my heartbeat. Still, I doubt that would be very relaxing. Alright. Okay, Zal was writing a letter to Sam. He brought up Seamerg. After attributing all this to God's will, he confessed that he had fallen in love with Medab's daughter, while promising that he would never do anything against Sam's wishes. He recalled how Sam had pledged his word to Zal, in the presence of more than one person, that he would never prevent Zal from doing anything in accordance with his heart's desire. He therefore hoped that Sam would respond favorably. When Sam saw the galloping steed of the courier approaching his camp in Kargasaran, he remarked to his companions that a Kabuli rider was coming on a Zabuli steed. It must be a messenger sent by Zal, and so he expected to get some news about Zal, Iran, and the king. And as soon as the rider came into Sam's presence, he dismounted, kissed the ground, praised God, and gave the letter to Sam. On reading the letter, Sam grew pale. He was placed in a dilemma. If he were to reject Zal's request, he would be going back on his promise, which he had made to Zal in the presence of all courtiers, and a breaker of promise is liked neither by God nor by the people. On the other hand, if he were to grant Zal's request, he wondered what sort of an issue would come out of the union between one brought up by a bird and one whose ancestor was a monster. Chapter 68. Sam consults his advisors about Zal's affairs and replies to his letter. As soon as he woke up, Sam sent for his counselors and astrologers and asked the latter to consult the stars and find out the outcome of this whole romance between water and fire. The astrologers, after deliberating one whole day, came smiling to Sam and said that circumstances themselves had brought about a happy union between two individuals of hostile camps. Out of their union would be born a most powerful and valiant knight, who would control the affairs of the whole world. He would not spare evildoers of any country or province, be it Sagsar or Mazandaran. His presence will prove to be a great blessing for Iran, and his wrath will fall upon Turan, the traditional enemy of Iran. Law-abiding persons will be able to sleep peacefully, thanks to his exertions, and will remain free from tyranny and misrule. His name will be taken everywhere with pride and hope. Sounds like an Iranian Batman or something, or Superman. They're really hyping this guy up, this descendant of Zal's. It's about to start, so we're just gonna wait to see what Sam thinks about this prophecy. I'll see you guys in a few minutes, I guess. In the meantime, I am just going to sit here and hum. Okay, looks like the ad break is over. Welcome back, everyone. Now then, let's see what Sam thinks about all of this. Sam was very pleased to hear this optimistic prediction and presented gold and silver to his astrologers. He then sent for Zal's courier and conveyed the message to Zal that although his request was not a reasonable one, he granted it since he did not want to go back on his promise. However, he wanted that Zal should keep it a secret until he moved his forces to Iran and consulted the king. Soon after collecting 1,000 captives from Kargasaran, Sam marched his forces towards Iran in the early hours of the morning. Wait, captives? Was Kargasaran like a battlefield, or why did he get captives from there? The courier conveyed Sam's message to Zal, who thanked God and was so excited with joy that he forgot all about food and sleep and was thinking only about Rudaba. Chapter 69. Sindukt comes to know of Zal Rudaba's romance and is pleased. There was an intelligent maid with gift of the gab who served as a go-between to the lovers. Zal sent through her to Rudaba the happy tidings that Sam had given his consent to their union. Rudaba showered coins upon the maid and made her sit upon a gilded chair and gave her a set of costly clothes. For Zal she brought out a turban made of a very fine interwoven cloth, covered with rubies and golden threads. The golden portion of the turban was invisible under the pearls overlying it. She gave this, along with a matching bright ring, to the maid, for handing them over to Zal as a gift from her. As the maid slipped quietly away from Rudaba's room and reached the main palace building, Sindukt noticed her and questioned her why she was coming and going to and fro so often without her permission. The maid got frightened and blurted out the excuse that she was a saleswoman who sold costly dress material, jewels, etc. to rich buyers and lived on the proceeds of the sale. She said that she had just bought a golden coronet and a jeweled casket for Rudaba. When challenged to show these things, the maid said that she had just given them to Rudaba. When asked to produce the proceeds of the sale, she said that Rudaba promised to give her the money the next day. Sindukt got suspicious that she was not telling the truth. Enraged at being deceived, she caught hold of the maid's hairs, twisted them, threw her down, and dragged her by her hair. She then kicked her, boxed her, and tied her up. That's an extremely abusive workplace environment. That maid really needs to sue. I don't think this was included in the contract at all. Still angry at the stubborn refusal of the maid to tell her the truth, she went to her room and sent for Rudaba and asked her politely why she practiced such dissimulation and kept things secret from her. Rudaba felt ashamed of herself and confessed that her heart was given to Zal, and that both of them, hand in hand, had vowed eternal love and fidelity to each other. She also revealed that Sam had given his assent to their union. She said that she got this news from Zal through the maid whom Sindukt had just manhandled, while she was going out with the turban and the ring to be given to Zal from Rudaba with love. Sindukt was dumbfounded when she heard this. She did not think it would be easy to get the king's consent for such an alliance,
and feared that the king might invade Kabul and raze it to the ground. She then released the maid, compensated her well for the manhandling she had received, but warned her to keep her lips tightly sealed about this affair. Rudaba was in a state of suspense, and went to bed with misgivings in her mind, and tears in her eyes. Chapter 70. Merab comes to know of Zal Rudaba romance, becomes enraged, and is brought round by Sindukht. When Merab returned to his palace, he saw Sindukht lying down and worried. On asking her why she was sad, Sindukht said that she was just thinking how all their wealth, possessions, and dependence will have to pass on one day to others. This had made her contemplative and sad. Ah, yes, the old Ozymandias problem. Merab told her that there was nothing new in what she said. Che sara sara, whatever will be, and there was no use being sad about it. Sindukht then revealed to Merab Rudaba's love for Zal, and how she was quite adamant about it. Merab was beside himself with rage. He placed his hand over the hilt of his sword and threatened to cut off Rudaba's head. Oh god, no. Seriously, going straight to the honor killing? That's not nice at all. Sindukht quickly put her hands round his waist and begged him to control himself. Merab brushed her aside and admonished her that she did not understand the implications of such a union. He said that Sam and Minochair would not approve of it, and would raze Kabul to the ground. Sindukht assured Merab that Sam had given his approval, and had come down from Karga Saran to bless the union. Merab could not believe his ears. Although he would be only too willing to welcome Zal as his son-in-law, he felt skeptical that such a thing would come to pass, since everyone from Awaz in the west to Kandahar in the east had his eyes upon Zal. Sindukht pointed out that such things had happened in the past. For example, Faridun had taken the daughters of Sarv of Yaman for his sons. Merab had cooled down by now. Sindukht showed him Sam's approval, which he had expressed in writing to Zal. Merab ordered that Rudaba be brought to him. Sindukht feared that he might kill Rudaba, so she first obtained from Merab his solemn assurance that he would not harm Rudaba. In this way Sindukht brought Merab round, and cleansed his mind of all evil designs against Rudaba. She then went to Rudaba, and told her to remove all her fine clothes and jewelry, and to go to her father with eyes full of tears. In this way she thought that Rudaba might be able to gain her father's sympathy. But Rudaba spurned this fortuitous advice, saying that she was not ashamed of her love for Zal, and saw no reason why she should be apologetic about it. She went in her finest attire and loaded with jewelry. Merab was struck with his daughter's exceptional beauty and gave thanks to God for it. Really? Again? He scolded Rudaba for venturing to form such a dangerous alliance. Rudaba maintained a studied and dignified reserve, and returned sad and anxious. Both mother and daughter spent the night in suspense, and sought refuge with God Almighty. And that's the second bot that Sari has gotten in this stream. I'm starting to wonder why I keep getting bots now. I wonder if this means I'm finally starting to grow. Chapter 71. Minochair comes to know of Zal's union with Rudaba, becomes sad, and sends Navzar to fetch Sam. When Minochair came to know of Zal's romance with Rudaba, He had a detailed discussion with his advisors. He feared that Merab, being a direct descendant of Zahak, from whose tyranny Faridun had liberated Iran, the son born of Zal and Merab's daughter, may sympathize with his mother's ancestor and seek vengeance on Iran. Minochair's advisors confessed that he was wiser than they, and they exhorted him to do what he thought best in the matter. Oh, so they're sycophants. Okay. The king then called his son Navzar and asked him to go with his bodyguards to Sam, find out how he fared in his expedition, and tell him that the king wanted to see him. Navzar started immediately with his bodyguards. Sam welcomed Navzar and entertained him to a banquet where, after dinner, toasts were drunk to the health of Minochair, Navzar, Sam, and other worthies. At the onset of dawn, the sound of drums emanated from the palace of Sam, who started for Iran with his retinue. When Minochair came to know of Sam's impending arrival, he organized a welcome with full military honors with Arabian steeds, warlike elephants, and lancers attired in coats of mail. Chapter 72. Sam comes to Minochair and describes his exploits in Mazandaran. Minochair sends Sam to fight against Merab of Kabul. Oh no. As Sam approached Minochair's throne, he kissed to the ground. Minochair, who wore a crown decked with rubies, got up from his ivory throne and made him sit next to his throne. He inquired about Sam's exploits in Kargasaran and Mazandaran against the warlike inhabitants of gigantic stature. Sam, giving the details, related how at first the warriors of the Sagsar tribe offered battle, how he played havoc in the ranks with his cow's head mace, weighing 300 mounds. Then Sam's grandson, Garguya, rushed at Sam and threw his lasso in order to entangle Sam, but Sam ducked and escaped being caught. Then Sam took out his bow and discharged arrow after arrow, every one of which was tipped with steel, and was under the impression that the arrows had pierced his adversary's head. But as soon as the dust settled down, Sam was surprised to see Garguya rushing towards him as if in great haste to kill him. Sam remained extraordinarily cool while parrying Garguya's attacks, and was looking out for a weak spot on his adversary's body. At last, finding an opportune moment, he caught hold of Garguya, lifted him from his saddle, flung him on the ground, and before he could get up, cut across his back with his sword made out of Indian steel. On seeing their leader slain, the soldiers fled. Altogether 60,000 soldiers were killed, out of their total strength of 300,000. 12,000 soldiers were taken prisoners. When Minochair heard this, he felt very much elated. Minochair entertained Sam to a banquet, after which they retired for the night. The next morning Sam wanted to acquaint Minochair with Zal's romance with Rudaba, but before he could open his mouth, Minochair ordered Sam to proceed to Kabul and to raze Merab's castle to the ground, and kill Merab and his relatives, since they happened to be the descendants of the accursed Zahak. Sam did not want to say anything, since the king was in an angry mood. He promised to do his best, kissed the throne, and started homewards with his forces. Chapter 73. Zal comes to know of Sam's arrival to fight Merab, and dissuades him from doing so. Chapters. Okay. When Merab and Zal heard that the king and the knight, Sam, had hatched this plot, the whole of Kabul was full of excitement. Cries were heard from Merab's palace. Sindukt, Merab, and Rudaba gave up all hopes of saving their lives and property. Zal came out of Kabul highly excited, and said that if the fiery dragon was bent upon consuming Kabulistan with its fiery breath, it will first have to cut off Zal's head. He then approached his father in great anguish. When Sam came to know of Zal's approach, his troops prepared to give a rousing welcome to Zal. They decorated Faridun's standard and sounded the drums. When Sam and Zal came within sight of each other, Zal dismounted and walked towards his father. All the elders on both sides also dismounted. Zal kissed the ground. Sam conversed with him for some time, and then repaired to his camp. Meanwhile, Sam's courtiers cautioned Zal against losing his temper, and advised him to put forth his case very politely. As soon as Sam reached his camp, he took Zal inside. Zal kissed the ground, praised Sam for his valor, sense of justice, and remarked that although the whole world had benefited from Sam's dispensation, he, his own son, was the only unfortunate individual not to have benefited from Sam's dispensation and sense of justice, without any provocation or crime on his part. He recalled how Sam had abandoned him soon after birth, and how God had saved him, brought him up, and restored him back to Sam, how Sam had promised him that he would never go against Zal's wishes. He then sorrowfully remarked that in contravention of his promise, Sam had come all the way from Mazandaran and Kargasaran to destroy Zal's happiness. Zal then implored Sam to cut him into pieces with a saw, but not to take revenge on Merab and Kabul for no fault of theirs. Sam acknowledged that Zal was speaking the truth, and that he had indeed ill-treated Zal. He advised Zal to have patience until he could find a way out of the impasse. He said that he had planned to write a letter to the king and send it along with Zal, so that the king may have an opportunity to see him and be favorably impressed with his personality and skill in the art of warfare and courtcraft, and thus abandon all unfavorable thought of Zal. Chapter 74. Sam sends Zal-e-Zar with a letter to Minochair. Thank you, Zach. I appreciate that. I do my best to keep my voice soothing. Sam then dictated a letter to his writer. After praising God and his divine qualities, Sam invoked God's blessings upon Minochair and recalled the king's valor, sense of justice, and other noble qualities. He pointed out that he was 120 years old, and recalled how he had fought all his life against evilly disposed tyrants and creatures. He described in detail his fight against a dragon of the Kashaf River, whom no one else had been willing to tackle. After transfixing the black tongue of the dragon with 3 arrows, discharged in quick succession, he picked up his mace, and with one blow of his mace he smashed the dragon's head. As a result of this, he became to be popularly known as Sam-e-Yak-Zakam, in other words, One Blow Sam. The original One Punch Man, except it was one blow with a mace. After recalling how he had brought Kargasaran and Mazandaran under the king's sway, he pointed out that he was getting old and wanted to hand over charge to Zal, who he hoped would continue to maintain his traditions. Lastly, he acquainted the king with Zal's having fallen in love with Rudaba, and requested that the king may kindly approve of Zal's action. Zal took the letter and left early in the morning to put it on, along with his bodyguard. Sam, meanwhile, remained in Kabul. Chapter 75. Mehrab gets angry with Sindukt, and Sindukt goes to Sam in connection with Zal and Rudaba's betrothal. When the news spread in Kabul of the impending invasion, Mehrab became very excited. He called Sindukt and took her to task for Rudaba's falling in love with Zal. He said that he was not strong enough to fight Minotaur and Sam, so, in order to ward off the invasion, he could see no alternative but to behead her and Rudaba in public. Perhaps Minotaur's anger may be assuaged thereby. Sindukt thought deeply over this and then proposed to Mehrab that she would like to seek an interview with Sam and dissuade him from invading Kabul. She felt confident of success, provided Mehrab would permit her to give costly presents from his treasury. Mehrab, who wanted to appease Minotaur at any cost, readily agreed to her proposal and, handing over the key of his treasury to her, permitted her to help herself to whatsoever she wanted, and to go with slaves, horses, thrones, and helmets. Really? Are we sure he's not evil? He has slaves. That's not exactly what the sort of thing a good person does. Sindukt extracted a solemn pledge from Mehrab that, in her absence, he would not wreak vengeance upon Rudaba. She then attired herself in a dress of silk inlaid with gold, and decked her head with pearls and rubies. From Mehrab's treasury she took out 300,000 dinars, old coins, for showering them on Sam. She selected 10 high-bred steeds decked with golden backspreads, 50 slaves with golden belts, 30 Persian and Arabian steeds with silver reins and bits, 60 slaves wearing golden necklaces and carrying a cup of gold filled with musk, camphor, rubies, and gold. One of the cups was filled with wine, another with sugar, 40 pieces of silk inlaid with gold and covered with every variety of pearls, 200 swords of Indian steel, with hilts of gold and silver and poisoned blades. Yikes! 100 female dromedaries with brown hair, 100 mules capable of carrying heavy weights, a crown studded with royal jewels, necklaces, garlands, and earrings, a golden throne set with pearls, 20 cubits broad and as high as a mounted rider, 4 elephants laden with costly cloth and carpets. After selecting all these costly gifts, she put on a Byzantine helmet, bestrode a horse like a seasoned knight, and went galloping to Sam's camp. She told Sam's guards to inform him that a courier from Kabul had arrived to convey a message from Mehrab to Sam. On gaining admission into Sam's presence, she showered the gold coins on Sam and offered him the precious gifts, including high-bred animals that were in a line 2 miles long. Sam was dumbfounded. He bent his head low and wondered why a ruler who commanded so much wealth should deem it fit to send a woman for an emissary. That's misogynistic. He was in a dilemma. If he accepted all the gifts, the king and the people of Iran would be displeased. If, on the other hand, he refused to accept, Zal's feelings would be hurt, and he would not be able to assuage the feelings of Zal. After being plunged in thought for a long time, he raised his head and ordered his men to accept the gifts and hand them over to Zal's treasurer as gifts from the moon of Kabulistan. Sindukt regarded this as a good omen heralding the tidings of peace. 3 maids of silvery complexion and cypress-like stature were with her. Each one of them held a cup filled with rubies, pearls, and mother of pearls. At a sign from Sindukt, they simultaneously inverted their cups in front of Sam so that the jewels got intimately jumbled together. Sam appreciated this gesture very much and admired Sindukt's brilliant ingenuity. They literally just shuffled a bunch of precious, costly things, and yeah, that's impressive. Okay. Sam's room was now cleared of everyone, so that only Sindukt and Sam remained. Sindukt questioned Sam that if Merab had committed a crime, why should the innocent people of Kabul be penalized for the same? She exhorted him to act in fear of God, who was the same for both of them. The only difference was that the people of Kabul regarded idols as the symbol of divinity, whereas fire was the symbol for Iranians. Hence he should give up the idea of shedding blood. Sam asked her to reveal her identity, whether she was a servant of Merab's household or a member of his family, and to say truthfully where and when Zal saw Merab's daughter. What was she like in appearance, stature, and bearing? Sindukt promised to give Sam whatever information he desired, and also all the wealth of Kabulistan, provided he took a solemn oath not to harm Sindukt or anyone from her family. Sam took Sindukt's hand in his, and swore a most solemn oath, guaranteeing to Sindukt immunity from violence. Then Sindukt kissed the ground, and revealed that she was Merab's consort and Rudaba's mother. She said she had come to Sam to find out how he viewed Zal's love for Rudaba. In case it did not meet with Sam's approval, she asked Sam to kill her rather than wreak vengeance upon the innocent populace of Kabul. Sam was impressed by Sindukt's outspokenness and told her that he did not have the least desire to sack Kabul, nor was he against Zal's marriage to Rudaba, although they belonged to different racial stock. Okay. He said that he had written a letter to Minochair imploring him to give permission, and Zal had personally taken that letter. He hoped that the king would give his consent. Meanwhile, he wanted Sindukt to enable him to see her daughter once. Sindukt invited him to come over to Merab's palace as an honored guest. Sam accepted the invitation, whereupon Sindukt was very happy, and sent a messenger post-haste to Merab conveying the glad tidings, and urging him to make arrangements befitting Sam's exalted status. While taking leave of Sam presented her with his estates and gardens in Kabul, and sent through her costly gifts for Merab and Rudaba. He sent 200 of his bodyguard to escort Sindukt to Kabul, and assured her once again that she could continue to stay in Kabul in peace and happiness. Chapter 76. Zal goes to Minochair and hands over Sam's letter. As soon as the king came to know of Zal's impending arrival, he sent his knights to welcome him. When Zal approached the royal throne, he kissed the ground, praised the king, and remained for some time with his face on the ground. The king was so impressed that he gave his heart to Zal, and ordered his men to raise Zal from the ground, wash the dust off his face, and powder it with fragrant musk. After the king expressed his concern about the long, arduous journey which Zal had undertaken, and after Zal had replied that any exertion for the king's sake was no trouble other than pleasure, Minochair took the letter, read it, and smilingly assured Zal that all his wishes would be gratified. A royal banquet was given in Zal's honor, following which Zal retired for the night. At the break of dawn, Zal presented himself before the king, who praised him openly, and inwardly was also full of admiration for him. Sorry about that. Got a little lost there. The king then sent for all the wise men and astrologers, and asked them to consult the stars about the outcome of Zal's romance. Their conclusion was that out of the union of Zal and Merab's daughter would emerge a mighty knight, whose phenomenal strength would be matched by his peerless wisdom. He would spend his entire life in the service of the kings of Iran, and would wage a relentless war against Turan. I guess that means evil or something. Year in and year out. Minochair felt happy, and instructed the astrologers to keep their findings a secret. He then sent for Zal, so that the wise men of the royal court may test his intelligence and general knowledge, by putting some questions to him.
Just listening along until some funky music played and weird noises, huh? Some KFC ad. KFC. That's some good stuff right there. I really do miss the green beans though. I hate that they took green beans off the KFC menu. Now how am I supposed to at least pretend that I'm eating healthy-ish? I can't pretend that I'm eating healthy anymore when I go to KFC. They have no green beans. At least their chicken sandwiches are really good. Anyways, a mighty knight of phenomenal strength matched by peerless wisdom, spending his entire life and waging a relentless war against evil, year in and year out. That reminds me of something. A certain someone we all know quite well. A fan of Jolly Bay, huh? I've never been to Jolly Bay. There aren't any Jolly Bays in the new Persian Empire. It honestly makes me very sad. I would like to experience Jolly Bay someday. I'd also like to experience this thing the Texans know as Buc-ee's as well. I've heard much of those places. I want to experience them for myself someday. Also Tim Hortons. There's so many places I would like to visit someday. Their spaghetti is very different. Perhaps it is the Sea Asian in me to enjoy them. Perhaps Sea Asian spaghetti sounds very interesting.
Chapter 77. The Wise Men's Interrogation of Zal-e-Zar. The wise men sat down, and each one of them put a question in the shape of a riddle to Zal. The following riddles were asked. What are the 12 stately cypresses, from every one of which 30 branches, neither more nor less, constantly spring forth? What are the 2 racehorses, one of them as black as coal tar, and the other as white as crystal, that run round and round, each chasing the other, but never catching up with the other? What are those 30 riders who pass by the king, and one of them seems to disappear, but on counting properly they are again 30? Excuse me 1 second, I need to blow my nose once more. What is that meadow full of greenery and flowing water, towards which comes a man with a big sharp scythe, and reaps everything raw or ripe? No amount of pleading with the reaper is of any avail. What are the 2 stately cypresses, which seem to emerge out of a turbulent river in the manner of cane trees? A bird has its nest on the top of each of the 2 trees. It sits on one tree in the morning, and upon the other in the evening. When it flies away from one tree, its leaves dry up. When it sits upon the other tree, it becomes as fragrant as musk. Of the 2 trees, one is evergreen, and the other is withered and dried up. On the top of a solid rock there is a fortified city. Some wiseacres migrate from that city, and select a deserted, sandy place, where they build skyscrapers and work there, some in the capacity of slaves, and some in the role of masters. Are these guys foreseeing wage slavery? They forgot all about the fortified city from where they had come. Then all of a sudden there is a severe sandstorm, which uproots and obliterates everything that they had constructed. At this stage they think of the fortified city whence they had come, and wonder what their fate is going to be. The wise men invited Zal to unravel the mysteries of the riddles which they had posed. thereby transmuting, as if black earth into the costliest musk. No, I don't think I'm sick. I'm not running a fever or a cold or anything. I feel fine in that regard. But I have been sniffling all day. It was a bit chilly last night, so I think it might just be a seasonal allergy. Or I don't know for sure. I think it might just be the weather changing and that's getting to me. But I don't know for sure. I'm hoping a good night's sleep and eating well will help with that. Though honestly, I could use a lot more healthy food in the new Persian Empire. Just got a Tim Hortons and you're okay with it, huh? Neat. Chapter 78. Zal's replies to the wise men. Zal thought over the questions for a long time before replying. The 12 stately cypresses were the 12 months of a year. The 30 branches of one tree represented the 30 days of each month. The black and the white racehorses connote night and day, which follow each other in quick succession without one overlapping the other. The 30 riders who pass by the king are 30 days of the lunar month, which the Arabs adopt. One day in a month the moon disappears after becoming thinner and thinner, but again reappears the next day and begins to wax. The 2 cypresses are the 2 halves of the zodiac. From the Aries to the Libra, the houses of the zodiac are under the earth in darkness. From Libra to the Pisces, the house of the zodiac are above the earth and out of darkness. The bird which flies from one tree to the other is the sun, which goes from one house of zodiac to another. According to the influence of the houses of zodiac, we are in happiness or in sorrow. The fortified city on the top of the mountain is the abode of reckoning and eternal stay, whereas the sandy desert is this fleeting earth where we enjoy pleasure and suffer pain and mark time until a cyclone and earthquake come about to destroy everything on this earth. The fruits of our exertion are left behind on this earth, and we are forced to seek refuge in the eternal abode. Someone else enjoys the fruits of our labor, and ultimately he too passes away. This has been going on from the beginning of creation, and will go on for eternity. If we gather good name in this world, our soul will be happy in the next world. But if we exhibit greed and deviate from the righteous path, we shall have to suffer the consequences after our death. Even if we build a skyscraper and live in it, our ultimate destiny is just a shroud. Once our face is covered over with brick and earth, everything is reduced to just one fearful uncertainty. As regards the meadow and the reaper who reaps everything, whether green or dry, know that the reaper is time and we are like grass. Time, the reaper does not care whether one is a grandfather or a grandson, whether one is young or old. It devours anything which comes in its path. The world is created in such a manner that every creature born of a mother is but destined to die. One enters by this door and leaves by that door, and the reaper time keeps a strict watch on every breath that the creature takes. The crux of the matter is that in this stale world, nothing remains fresh forever. It is the internal convention that time gives with one hand and takes with the other. Wow, those were some really deep answers. When Zal finished replying, the king and the wise men were extremely glad and elated. The emperor then gave a banquet, at which wine flowed freely till late in the night, following which the knights dispersed. Chapter 79. Zal exhibits his skill before a Minotaur. Soon after sunrise, Zal put on the knightly attire and came before the king, as was the convention, to seek his permission to leave. He said that he was homesick and wanted to see his father Sam. The king asked Zal to prolong his stay by one more day, and said that Sam's name was merely an excuse to camouflage his innermost desire to see Merab's daughter. A mock battle was staged under the king's orders, and all the warriors displayed their skill in the use of mace, sword, arrow, and lance. The king watched from an elevated place. There was a huge hoary tree in the middle of the Okay, this word is like a little, kind of scratched out a little, but I think it's Maidan. Maidan, that's what I'm reading. Zal picked up a bow and discharged an arrow from the back of a horse in full gallop, which passed clean through the tree trunk. That's pretty impressive. Zal next threw the bow away and picked up a short spear and, from the back of a horse in full gallop, threw the spear with such force that it passed through 3 shields put together. My, he's certainly something. The king's astonishment knew no bounds. He exhorted his knights to mount pressure upon Zal in order to test Zal's prowess when under great duress. Zal looked out for the most prominent knight among those who attacked him, and catching hold of his belt, lifted him clean from the saddle. The king and the soldiers could not believe their eyes. The knights, with one voice, proclaimed that such a warrior had never been seen nor heard of before, and for anyone to fight him was to court certain death. I don't know. I think Faridun could have fought him, but then again, Faridun is long gone, so I guess it's a moot point. Minotaur wished the young warrior a very long life, and exclaimed how proud Sam must have been to father such a son who was sure to carry on the martial traditions after him. The king and the nobles who had assembled in the king's palace praised him, and bid a fitting farewell, loading him with costly robes, and crown and throne, necklaces, golden belts, along with slaves and steeds. Chapter 80. Zal returns with Minotaur's reply, and Sam informs Merab accordingly. The king wrote out a reply to Sam's petition, wherein he praised Sam and his son Zal, and said that a lion who hunts for leopards cannot give birth to a lion. He said that he had listened with an open mind to Zal, as recommended by Sam, and had great pleasure in granting all Zal's desires. He prayed that Zal may be immune from the evil designs of wicked persons. Zal took the letter and set out homewards. Meanwhile he dispatched an express courier to inform Sam that he was returning with royal favours and gifts, with all his desires fulfilled. Old Sam was so elated that he felt rejuvenated. He sent a courier to Kabul to convey the happy news to Merab, and to inform him that as soon as Zal returned, he and Zal would lose no time in starting for Kabul. Merab's joy knew no bounds. He felt as if new life had entered his body. The whole of Kabulistan rejoiced. Merab complimented Sinduk on her untiring efforts, which had now borne fruit, since she had been instrumental in initiating the measures for such a happy outcome. He exhorted her to take all measures to bring about a happy ending. He offered to place all his resources, wealth, his crown and throne, at Sinduk's disposal. Sinduk congratulated Rudaba on her good fortune, and set about, in right earnest, to renovate and decorate her mansion. She strewed roses, wine, and amber, and spread out carpets containing gold threads and covered with lapis lazuli. Another carpet had high-quality pearls sewn in it. A golden throne, covered with pearls and with figures carved out, was placed. The foot of the throne was made with rubies. She made up Rudaba in a bewitching manner and allowed no one access to her. The whole of Kabul wore a festive look. Elephants were decorated with Byzantine silk, on which musicians seated themselves. Hand-picked handsome slaves were chosen for sprinkling musk, amber, gold coins, rosewater, and for spreading silk cloth to cover the soil moistened with rosewater. Zal and his companions rode post-haste to Zabul, where Sam locked him in affectionate embrace for some time, after which Zal kissed the ground and narrated what he had seen and heard. Chapter 81. Sam goes with Zal to Merab Kabuli, and Zal takes Rudaba for his wife. Sam sat on the throne with Zal by his side. He told Zal how Sindukt had come to see him, and that he had promised her never to suspect her of evil designs, and that Zal had his permission to marry Rudaba, also that he had consented to be her guest at Kabul. A messenger just arrived from Kabul to say that all arrangements had been made for the nuptials, and Sam's reply was awaited. Zal was overjoyed to hear Sam approve of his alliance with Rudaba, and suggested to Sam that the army may be sent first, and that they should follow later. Sam knew that Zal was thinking of none but Rudaba, and was spending sleepless nights over her. Ferdowsi here remarks that affairs of love are such. Wisdom vanishes where love reveals itself. Sam gave orders for the army to get ready to march. An express camel courier was sent to Medab to inform him that Sam and Zal were soon following with the army. Medab was happy to hear this, and he sallied forth with his forces to welcome Sam's party. Are we sure they're not gonna wage a war against each other? With stately elephants, with silk banners of red, green, yellow, and violet colors, with the re-echoing sound of horn, cymbals, bells, drums, the world seemed to be transformed into heaven. When Medab approached Sam, he dismounted. Sam took him in warm embrace. Medab put a crown of gold set off with pearls on Zal's head. The gay cavalcade reached Kabul and exchanged pleasantries. I do love me a gay cavalcade, in case you couldn't tell by the flag. The whole of Kabul rejoiced. The necks and manes of the horses were smeared with musk and amber. Sindukt came out with 300 slaves, each one of them holding a cup of gold filled with musk and pearls. All these were showered upon Sam. None of those who took part in the procession felt the want of anything. The ground was strewed with dinars, gold coins, and pearls. Dirhams, silver coins, had no value there. Sam smiled and asked Sindukt how long she wanted to hide Rudaba. Sindukt remarked that she was prepared to show Rudaba to him that very moment. Sam felt so flattered that he offered to give Sindukt whatever she wanted, whether in the shape of treasure, throne, crown, or lands. They then went into the seraglio where Rudaba was waiting. When Sam's eyes fell on Rudaba, he was dumbfounded. He did not know in what words he should praise her, or how he should keep his eyes open. He congratulated Zal that God had guided him to make such an excellent choice. Merab then came forward and tied the nuptial knot, after the bride and bridegroom were seated on one throne. Rubies, lapis lazuli, were showered on the couple. Zal wore the golden crown, and Rudaba's head was covered with royal pearls. The register containing a list of the treasure and jewels was brought, and Merab read out each and every item. When Sam heard the details of the treasure given to Rudaba as a dowry, he was dumbfounded and offered thanks to God. They then spent the next 2 weeks in wining and dining. Typically, I think that's supposed to come before the marriage, but whatever. Zal and Rudaba did not have a wink of sleep, by night or by day, for 1 week, and both slept together, day and night, so that Rudaba conceived one of those nights. Wow. They really were busy. Computer running low on storage space, huh? I'm gonna have to deal with that later. Sam left for Sistan at the beginning of the month. Zal stayed a week more, and then took Rudaba in a specially prepared howdah. Merab, Sindukt, and other relatives accompanied the party to Nimruz. Sam organized a reception lasting for 3 days, after which Sindukt continued to stay, whereas Merab returned with his party to Kabul. When Sam saw that Zal had his most cherished desire fulfilled, he handed over the reins of his kingdom to his son, and then set out, with his troops at his standard, for Kargasaran toward the west. He declared that Minochair had issued an edict conferring the rulership of that province upon him, but the hostile elements there, especially the Deves, the uncivilized inhabitants of Mazandaran, were not favorably disposed towards accepting his suzerainty, and so his presence was essential to subdue them. Sam left, and Zal sat on the throne along with Rudaba, upon whose head a crown of gold was placed. Well, that was quite the wonderful love story. And we wrapped up right at the 2-hour mark. I think that's where we should stop. Especially since the next part is one that I'm looking quite forward to. If you're wondering what that part is, well, you'll just have to be here for the next ASMR stream. But I'll give you a hint. This next part is going to be very interesting to people who are fans of this channel. That's all I will say. In any case, I really appreciate everyone who came out here tonight, and I hope that you have enjoyed the benefits of our war against insomnia. Anyways, tonight's battle is finished, but just in case, we'll look for someone who can keep the fight going, a fellow ASM artist. Let's see who's going right now. Whole lot of people playing horror stuff right now. I'm going to have to, let's see. IB Chi-Chi just started. Interesting. Yep. Explain the armor, huh? Explain the armor. Alright. Well, the armor is loosely based upon illustrations of my first life as Rustam. Basically, the very first Rustam from the days of old, from the days of the Shahnameh. Well, as you can imagine, he had a whole lot of paintings and artwork made of him. So the armor is sort of inspired by some of those drawings, but it's mainly inspired by the explanation of his typical armor, the Babena Bear, I believe it's pronounced, which is essentially a sort of panther garment, which is said to have been like a kind of mystical armor or something, as you might expect of a mystical armor blessed by God. It was quite effective in shielding him from harm.
So anyways, that's what my armor is essentially. The Bobbin Bear. It's a nice little tiger skin number, blessed by God. With a few guards here and there. In any case, I don't know that I want to raid into Chi-Chi. She's pretty big, and I'm not sure if her kind of ASMR is the type I want to be raiding into right now. Let's see. Let's check the tag and see who else is going. Wow, there's a whole lot of people going right now. Whole lot of people doing ASMR right now. Not a whole lot of them are doing reading or anything like that. Oh? Interesting. Oh? Alright. I think I found someone interesting. I think we're going to be raiding into them. Alright. Before we go, I want to thank everyone who showed up once again. And I would like to remind everyone that they can join the New Persian Empire through the Discord, the YouTube, or the Twitter. Oh, looks like we have an ad break going. In that case, I might as well put up the raid message while everyone's doing that. Let's see. Persian ASMR raid. And for followers, alright, there's our raid messages. And the ad break should be ending in a few seconds. Alright, the ad break should be over. So, I'm going to thank everyone who stayed up until the end now, and remind everyone that they can join the New Persian Empire through Discord, YouTube, and Twitter. Twitter is where the stream schedule goes up every Monday, as well as going live announcements and other little things. YouTube is where all the VODs go up, as well as other little things from time to time. Discord is where I'm gathering the community, and where I hope to do community streams one day. And I also post the stream schedule and the going live announcements there as well. Anyways, if you're subscribed, make sure to copy the first follow raid thing. No, not follow. The raid message. That's it. The first raid message is for subscribers. The second one is for followers. Anyways, it's about time we got started with this. Let's see. Raid. Okay. I think that should be right. Alright. Off we go. Yes. Apologies, Zach. The Discord still has its issues. I uninstalled Carlbot a while back when that whole scare about it getting hacked came up, and then I reinstalled it, so I need to do some work with it to get the rules up and running. Sorry about that. I'll do my best after stream to make sure that gets fixed. In the meantime, I'll see you guys tomorrow for some Sonic Frontiers Friday. Until then, dismissed, soldiers.